Hi, welcome to the SDP. As you could guess from the poster behind me, the James Bond franchise is one of my biggest fandoms, if not the biggest. So, because of such exposure, while I have developed an affinity for other spy fiction, I take it quite seriously, and I become disappointed when other works don't take their job seriously. Example.
Totally Spies. It's stupid, it can't stand up to real spy fiction plot-wise, but it's still a guilty pleasure of mine because, hey, those girls are hot.
I'll do a review of that show sometime, but for now, we get Spy Goddess. It's got the idiocy of Totally Spies, none of the fan service, and a host of its own problems.
Spy Goddess started out as a series of 2 novels written by Michael P. Spradlin, the first one released in January of 2006. This is the 3rd book, and they already decided to switch to a manga format.
Kinda jumping the gun there, are you? The script was written by Rachel Mangia Brown, who wrote for several Boys Beloved manga titles, and the art is by Beijing-born Yifang Ling, aka Rainbow Buddy. She's gonna need a new alias once I'm through with this. So, to borrow the words of a more talented critic than I, let's dig into Spy Goddess Volume 1.
Our designated hero is Rachel Buchanan. In her backstory, she apparently got caught joyriding and was given a chance of either going to juvenile hall or spy school Blackthorn Academy. If you're expecting any sort of plot, not only will you be disappointed, but you could guess which one she took. Oh, and she's a fashion-obsessed girl who off and on sucks at martial arts.
You call that a hero? The equally unimpressive supporting cast includes
Pilar Jordan is psychic, which means she's prone to certain sixth sense feelings. It's an easy talent for the reader to forget about, but don't, or else her scenes won't make sense. Alex Scott, a frequently irate black belt in Taekwondo, but he doesn't do much. Brent Christian, the gadget guy, usually mute, also doesn't do much. Jonathan Kim, their boss, a 9th degree black belt, not that he really does any fighting for himself. I like his character design as far as boss guys go, a 30-something with a thin beard, but said beard inexplicably shrinks throughout the book.
I never thought I'd see growing the beard in reverse. The majority of this book takes place in Tokyo, Japan. The problem with setting a story in a foreign location is the tendency to feel like a travel documentary with a plot attached. I admit I fell into this trap, to some degree, whilst writing my Sapphire novels, particularly Episode 2, which also takes place in Japan. This can be done well, though, and make the setting that much more immersive. But if the plot gets ignored, it tends to get overshadowed completely. Our so-called heroes spend time shopping in Akihabara and Harajuku, eating at an okonomiyaki restaurant.
Hey, wait a minute, okonomiyaki was invented in Osaka. But it can be found in all the big cities, so forget about it.
And soaking in public bath before any of the real action starts.
In Tokyo, our 5-man band is joined by 2 Japanese investigators, Mrs. Kazumi Sato and Mr. Yoshi Tanaka, who are both blonde despite being of Asian descent.
And yes, I know how this whole thing got started. GI staying over from World War II brought along comic books which the Japanese adopted. Moving on.
Yoshi arrives later at the okonomiyaki restaurant. During lunch, Rachel and Pilar have a private chat in the bathroom where Pilar informs that she sensed an evil feeling during the shopping trip with Rachel and Kazumi. They then proceed to steal Brent and Yoshi's PDAs to check for any incriminating messages, presumably on the latter using the former to do the hacking. The plot supposedly involves a chalice stolen from a Tokyo Museum of Roman Artifacts. The obvious choice of culprit is Simon Blankenship, the villain from the 2 novels who is convinced that he is a reincarnation of the evil Roman god Mithras, and he left a calling card in the form of a gold trinket.
I never got the idea of these calling card things.
The theft of the chalice was caught on security video, perpetrated by his anonymous horn-helmeted goons. Look carefully and you'll see it's not even a chalice, literally cup, that was stolen, but the thing is instead a vase.
But worst of all is that the thing is never mentioned again and only shown in 2 more panels. And this thing's part of the freaking title!
After leaving the museum, ruining her new outfit by falling in a koi pond, and being treated to a public bath. Oh ho ho, I've read enough hentai to know where this is going. You'd be wrong. Rachel gets captured.
Some heroine.
Pilar investigates the room, discovers a couple of clues, and fingers the suspect. Yoshi Tanaka.
What? It's not Kazumi? Pilar had her sixth sense go off with her nearby, and in the bath she even tipped off Rachel about the phony hair treatment where she would get abducted. Okay, so that feeling was about another unnamed enemy spy, and Kazumi probably didn't know about the trap. Again, I'm making that last part up myself.
But Yoshi is indeed a Mithrian and manages to run away into the crowd. But Alex tracks him down, having placed a tracking dot on him. Or not. 60 pages ago, an earlier Mithrian spy snuck a tracking dot onto Rachel's new trench coat, and during lunch we saw it again, still on the trench coat, but that's it.
There's nothing in this book even implicitly showing that Alex took the dot off and planted it on Yoshi, or even used a new one on him. It's so good to let my anger out through acting instead of writing, because this plot hole deserves it.
With that hang-up out of the way, Rachel is introduced to Simon Blankenship, here a black-haired Bichon decked out in a caped Romanesque costume, complete with bull horns on his helmet, and even the toes of his boots. Hope you like Rachel calling him out on this fashion faux pas, because she milks the joke for more than it's worth.
He explains his evil plot, sacrificing the goddess Etheria to allow Mithras to return, but we're led to ignore it in favor of Rachel and Yoshi arguing. Oh, I forgot to mention.
Rachel has been imbued with the power of Etheria, a little deus ex machina that comes in handy with her duel with Simon/Mithras. And by the way, the fight scenes in this manga are poorly done as well. The poses chosen focus more on the reaction than the action, and fail to flow well together as a result. You'll often wonder how one move led to another, or if it did so at all. Meanwhile, the other 5 heroes reach the base to rescue Rachel. At one point, they are faced with an entrance which Brent indicates, through the power of his magic PDA, is booby-trapped. A seriously funny little scene ensues in which he imagines what would happen if one of the invisible lasers were to be tripped, completely overkilling Alex as a demonstration.
Alex is not amused.
Pilar dives through a gap in the lasers, attempts to disable them by using a voice command which she just happened to make up on the spot, and as luck and her psychic feelings would have it, it works. That's kind of a bit to buy a book, and I'm already broke. But it turns out there's one more trapdoor left, which Alex senselessly triggers in order to reach Rachel. The trap here is some kind of blade. The only indication we get is a panel of some slicing wind and another drops of blood on a white background.
I can understand if they were trying to hide some of the violence, but like I said, I'm broke.
The team follows to find Simon/Mithras knocked into a wall by Rachel/Etheria, the duel over.
So once again, the day is saved, or something.
Kazumi proceeds to arrest Yoshi, and oh look, Alex's arm was cut up after all. On the flight home, one final text message comes in. Simon Blankenship has escaped. Oh right, because they want to make a sequel. And what do you know, they did.
This comic sucks. In fact, not that my limited experience counts for much, but this is the worst manga I have ever read. Almost all of its problems, be they lack of explanation, poor character and plot development, or choppy fight scenes, can be traced to the fact that this book feels short. The target size for a tankobon manga volume is 180 to 200 pages, but this clocks in at 163, and yet it's a one-shot, full-length story crammed into these 6 tiny chapters. With something this bad, you wouldn't think I'd be asking for more, but expanding on this would make it at least readable. Everything else, such as Rachel being a poor excuse for a heroine, is of course a problem of the source material itself, so there's no helping that. Spy Goddess Volume 1 scores 25%, an F. This is Kevin, with Ichigo, and you are the Resistance.